Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Dear Truth. I'm your host, DR. In this episode, I want to talk about enjoying your life. I've been reading this book called Focus. I forgot who the author is by. I got to get better at that. I'm not good at naming people, but I'm gonna get good at naming people. I'm gonna make it a priority. Speaking of priority, prioritizing your happiness, prioritizing your enjoyment, your pleasure, things like that. That's kind of what I want to talk about today. So basically, in the book, it got to a point where they interviewed a bunch of people from a different walks of life from all over the world, and from a mountain climber to a chess player, they both described enjoyment and pleasure in the same manner. What it truly means to enjoy something. So the book is called Flow, and it's about enjoying life basically. And we've all heard of the flow state. Most of us have, especially if you're like an athlete. You get in the zone. Is what we call it in sports. So how do you get in the zone in your everyday life? How can you wake up with intention? Go after something, and how can you identify that? It talks about the identification of the criteria it takes to enjoy something. Like, what is that? So basically, it says it has to be something that's challenging, that has rules, with that starts out with the indication that it can be completed. And while you're doing it, time may slow down or time may speed up, and it's like, where did the time go? We all heard of that phrase. Basically, you're lost in the act of it, and it detaches you from the outside world, and you only become hyper fixated and focused on the task at hand. It's kind of like meditative in a way. To all my athletes out there, if you ever play ball, it's kind of like going through a drill or shooting around and still having a thought in your head as you're shooting, but you're still hitting it. You know what I'm saying? Or if you play baseball and you're at batting practice and just somehow you just hitting it up the middle, swing after swing. So, athletic metaphors. Or maybe, if you're more on the artistic, creative side, like if you've ever drawn a drawing or painted a painting, or maybe you were writing an essay and you got lost in the flow of it. They say one of the most enjoyable things to do is reading, because the art of reading is so in depth. It's the judgment of one's work. It's the getting lost in the way in which the author writes. It's the novelty of trying to figure out what's gonna happen next. So plus it's kind of like watching a movie. You paint the pictures in your head, you start to develop the characters, but that process alone, you get lost in it, and it becomes very, very enjoyable. So what do you do in your life that brings you joy? Are you an artist? Are you a writer? Do you enjoy your job? You really love what you do at work? Are you a business owner, an entrepreneur? Are you starting something new? Are you doing nothing at all? Point is, are you enjoying your time that you spend with yourself? Now, I also came across this video recently. It was of Kobe Bryant, expressing the Mamba mentality. And so basically, he was stating that everybody has their own box, right? And everybody's box may be different. Some people are athletes, some people are artists, some people are businessmen and women. Some people are, service workers, like police officers, firefighters, things of that nature for the city. Some people are politicians. And some people are just employees. But do you enjoy what you do? Whatever your box is, The point of the Mamba mentality is to, whatever your box is, do your best to perfect whatever it is that your box contains, right? You got to be comfortable in your box and then do your best to, like, make it as beautiful as you possibly can. That's how he stated it. He said his box was to be the most, I guess, what was the word he used? I'm not really sure, but the most, like, enthusiastic about basketball, within the means of basketball, or something like that. And to explore, the possibilities of it through and through. But, somebody else's box may be a bit different. And, your job is not to compare boxes. It's to, just beautify your own box, whatever you have within your means, within your realm. Like, do your best to, make it as beautiful as you possibly can. So that's the Mamba mentality. I agree with that, because I believe if you, learn to do that and accept that, then how can you not have a beautiful life? You know what I mean? Like, how can you not enjoy your time and, say that you've had fun in your life? So, sorry, I think I missed my turn where I was trying to go. So now I'm headed up a different direction. Hopefully I get there in a timely manner. It looks like I'm not sure if I will. It keeps telling me to turn around. And I know I can go this way, so I'm not 100% sure what it's asking me to do. That's crazy. Maybe I just pushed my time back so far that I'm not going to get there in the time in which I thought I would. Let's see. Sorry about that. That just threw me all the way off, and it's literally telling me not to go this way. I'm being hard-headed. Sometimes you just gotta see. I know I can go this way, but I'm looking, and I'm wondering, is traffic so dense? It doesn't look like it threw me off that much. So I apologize for that mishap there. It's kind of what you get when your studio space is also your car, in which you use to, commute back and forth to work. Sometimes you got to handle the things that come up immediately as they come, But anyway, back to enjoying your life. That was exciting, novelty, something new that just happens, you got to stay calm and handle it, Hopefully I did a good job. I didn't panic. And obviously it worked out, I'm still going to get to work on time, in the time in which I wanted to. So, anyways, ask yourself, what are some things that you have within your means right now that you truly enjoy? You have examples. If you think back in your past times that, you just had a really wonderful time, you know what I mean? And try to find something in today's time that gives you that same feeling. Try to find something that you can do that you can get lost in. Something that, brings you joy as you're doing it. It's not about a outcome. It's not about, monetary value. The actual fact of doing it is the thing that brings you joy. So, if there isn't anything in your life that you can think of right now, then, I think it's time for you to start exploring. It's time for you to, go do some research, try some things out, see what triggers the excitement button in you, see what brings you joy, something that you can see yourself doing for, extended periods of time, And whatever that is, I think that's worth exploring, worth, keeping a part of your, the things that you want to do that you enjoy, right? And so I think I want to adopt that. Enjoy life, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you're doing your best to do that. That's what I think, everything is about. That's what I think freedom truly is, just enjoying your life, I'm not the richest person in the world, but I can say I've been around some very wealthy people, and I wouldn't trade places with them for all of their money and some. All of the money in the world is not worth it. I truly enjoy myself. Like, that's also another thing too. That's why, what this channel is all about. It's about learning to accept yourself. Because if you don't like yourself, you know, that's gonna be really hard for you to enjoy anything else if your foundation is off. So that's one thing I've always been grateful for, is that I was always, for the most part, in tune with my star player, and I always enjoyed myself. You know what I'm saying? I've had my doubts, I've had my insecurities in life, but I will say majority of my life I've always been like secure in myself. I always believed in myself. I always knew that I was capable of anything. And just the belief alone has sustained me up until this part, to where now I have even more confidence than I've ever had before in my entire life. And that all, came about, always keeping the faith and belief in myself, that even if I don't have it right now, or even if I don't know how to do something right now, I guarantee you that my brain works well enough for me to be able to obtain the knowledge to perform a task at any level. So I want you to have that same belief within yourself if you don't, because you are capable. You can do anything, You just got to work at it. And, also, oh yeah, that's beautiful that I just said that. Working at it, right? So the things that you enjoy also bring about a certain amount of challenge, meaning that it takes a particular skill. It's not something that just anybody can do either. You know what I mean? Like, excuse me. Yeah, so it's not something that anybody can just jump in and do. It takes a certain level of skill that has to be acquired over a certain amount of time in order for you to be able to get into the flow state. You know what I'm saying? And it's challenging. Sometimes you're better at it than other times. You know what I mean? So it must present you a challenge. Like, life is challenging, as a matter of fact. And we're actually put here to overcome those challenges. And life can sometimes really be tough on you, really be hard on you, right? But honestly, that's life. And it's all about your attitude towards it, right? So you can be one of those people who, go through life and, have something traumatic happen to you, and you hold on to that thought process days, months, years later, and you never experience anything else because you're still stuck on the thought of a problem that happened that's no longer a problem. And I understand, some things are, scary. Some things are traumatizing, and a lot of those things shape who we become in life. But remember, like in one of my previous videos, I tell you, you can always change your mindset. You can always think differently and start to behave differently, and, do some research and gain new habits. Expand your consciousness by reading a book and obtaining new concepts to believe in or see, just to observe. And that alone will shift your mindset, because once you're exposed to something and you know about it, it's gonna, stick around until you make some sense of it. So challenge yourself, push yourself outside your boundaries. Don't just believe what you believe. Like, go and read other theories and other concepts and adopt some new ones. Try them out. Use your imagination and apply those concepts and see how they fit in your reality. Some things will break. Some things will start to have question, and you'll start to think about things from a different perspective that you've never thought of before. Like, I was watching Abbott Elementary, and there was a part where they were trying to get school supplies for the school because they don't have any funding, and this girl made a TikTok video and it went viral, and people started reaching out and giving her, material for her students. But the other teacher, who was an older teacher who, knew about life and hard lessons, and she's a tough lady, she didn't want a handout, and she wanted to make do with what she had in her classroom. But the newer teacher, who knew that, this was a unfit environment to learn in, quote unquote, did her due diligence to, create a list for the harder teacher and get school supplies for her. And, once the school supplies came, she was like, "Aren't you glad you got these school supplies?" And she was like, "Yeah, they're grateful for, I'm grateful for the school supplies that came in for the students. But what you're doing is setting a tone, showing the students that what they have isn't good enough. And this creates, a drive to need all the time. I'm trying to, teach them to be okay with what they have, and you're ruining that." And that was a brand new perspective. And I was like, dang, I didn't even catch that one. I was watching the show and assuming that the younger teacher trying to get school supplies for the kids to have something better to learn with was the better way. But I didn't get the whole principle of, being happy with what you have, so that when something does come your way, it's just seen as a pure blessing, as opposed to something that you feel you deserve. That takes the enjoyment out of it. Imagine imagine being a kid and you had a toy that was broken, but you didn't know it was broken, right? And you may do with it because it's all you knew. And then all of a sudden, somebody bring you a new toy that works, and now it has all these other features that you didn't even know it had. Oh man, that's way more enjoyable than looking at your toy thinking it's broken, not playing with your toy at all, even though it is broken. And then you finally get the toy you want, and all you get is one level of enjoyment. You miss the whole level of, using your creativity and your imagination to play with the broken toy and get, a boost up in enjoyment. You was dreadful half of the time because you wanted something, and then by the time you got it, it probably ain't as exciting as you thought it was, and you was miserable the whole time, and now you're not as happy as you could have been. You see what I'm saying? So it's two sides of every coin. It's a dope perspective. I never thought about that until I saw that, and I was like, wow, that was really great. And so now to be opened up to concepts like that, now you have a different perspective, and you can choose how to go forth with that new information and apply it as you see fit. You're no longer naive and arguing for one side over the other. You now have two perspectives that you gain where you can understand both sides and be at peace with either or. So a little off topic from just basically enjoying yourself, but in summary, I want you to, like I said, do some research if you don't have anything that you truly enjoy, or pick up an old habit that you used to have, like playing the game. You ain't played the game in a long time. Maybe go buy you a goddamn game. You know what I'm saying? As of recently, I've been picking up my guitar. Now I have a few little side quests that I've been, entertaining from time to time. Like for quite some time, I was learning to, teach myself to speak Spanish because I wanted to speak Spanish, and I got pretty far. I can order a table, but I still can't speak the language and understand it, to have a conversation, which is really my goal. But right now, I'm learning to play the guitar. I learned how to play a song last night by Elvis Presley. I forgot what it is. It's Can't Help Loving You. Yeah, I learned to play that last night, all in one night. And now I look back at the time that I've had in my life and how long I've had the guitar. And one day I learned a song. So, it took me about 5-6 years to pick up that guitar to learn a song that took me 30 minutes or so. Crazy. So imagine if I would have dedicated 30 minutes a day since I've had that guitar, I would probably be really good at it. Long story short, I enjoyed myself last night learning to play that song. I basically sat down, didn't let any outside things, distract me, no thoughts. I locked in, and before I knew it, I was playing the whole song, and I'm excited. I got something to look forward to when I get home. Like, I can't wait to pick up my guitar and go and play that song again. You see how something that you enjoy can sustain you throughout, over the course of time? Like, that's crazy. And then, like, this is something I've been doing, like waking up and setting my intentions on my day. Like, I know how my day's, structured for today, but what are some things that I can add on to my day to, like, enjoy my day? Like, one thing I know I want to do today is I have a goal to drink as much water as I possibly can, right? Summertime's coming up. I've been eating really heavy. So, it's always good to, assist your digestive system with, by keeping yourself hydrated, because your internal organs are very moist organs, right? It's not like your skin, which has an outer layer that's not as moist on the outside, but your internals, definitely need to be lubricated and hydrated. So, I'm making it a goal today to drink a lot of water. I'm looking forward to that. So I have two things to look forward to, Of course, there's more, but two I'm going to name is drinking a lot of water today, and picking up my guitar and seeing how well I can play that song. Oh, speaking of challenge, it wasn't easy. I had to learn some fingering techniques. I got a nice little app. What's the name of the app? Simply Guitar oh man, listen, I wish I could say I was sponsored by them right now, because that is a dope app. If you want to learn to play the guitar, Simply Guitar. They also have Simply Singing or Simply Singers, Simply Vocals, whatever. And then they also have Simply Piano. If any of the other two apps is like the guitar one, best app, best investment to learn to play the guitar or the piano or learn how to sing. I'm probably sure. I don't know. But yeah, that I've ever paid for. And I paid for like 2 other ones. This is the best one out of the 2. And it's better than any YouTube, series of videos of learning to play the guitar that I've ever seen. So that's why I'm saying, in my experience, this is a really great app. You can see how long I'm talking about this app. So it's a really good app. Y'all did y'all thing on that. Shout out to the developers of that. And what I'm saying is they really took their time to create a really dope product. It's a really good app. Like, accurate, So I'm just saying, I know that they put a lot of love into that app. I'm sorry, it's just really that good. I'm trying to bring it back around to like whatever they did to enjoy putting that app together is the enthusiasm that we all need to move with, because it's really a good app. Obviously I enjoy myself, you can tell, right? So, it brings you a sense of happiness, something that you can even think about it and it brings you joy. You're excited to do it. So if it's something like that in your life, that's where you want to live, you know what I'm saying? And how many of those things can you pack within your day to bring you that amount of excitement and that amount of enjoyment to keep you talking about it for an extended, period of time? And which also brings me to this. Your environment plays a part as well too. So I've, within the past like 3-4 years, have definitely isolated myself. I wouldn't tell anybody to do that. It's just that circumstantially, that's just where my life is right now. I'm not involved in the crowds that I used to be involved in a while ago. I took some time off to get to know myself a lot better, and, start from ground zero basically, and then, have a true foundation of who I truly am, what I'm truly interested in, and then go from there. Because if you're around so many people, sometimes the noise can influence your thoughts and you don't know what you really enjoy, what you really into. You being pulled by other people's desires and other people's beliefs of what they believe you should do. And, sometimes they present so many good ideas to you, you don't know which way you going. And, that too can also make you not trust yourself, because you always leaning on some outside source to tell you where you're supposed to be going. And that wasn't good for me. So I needed to be able to trust my own self. I'm the head of my life besides God, and then everything else outside of me and God is is just a suggestion at this point, And I run it through my own filter and gotta check off all my boxes before I just agree to what somebody else says. And maybe that's come from, trust issues, I've been quote unquote burned by a lot of people, or, I've asked for help in a lot of areas and didn't receive the help in which I put out towards somebody else, and, communication issues. So I just, isolated myself to learn how to speak better, see if I'm making errors and, mistakes in my own way. So I just came and, checked in with myself. I fixed myself first, because the world was just not making sense to me. And yeah, that was really great for me, but I do not advise a lot of people to do it. I'm telling you, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of heart to just isolate yourself like that. But here I am, I made it out, and I have a lot more clarity within myself. I have a lot more clarity about the world. Nobody can move me off my circle, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'm learning to enjoy life all over again with new challenges, new obstacles, and I might say it's going great. You know, I'm really enjoying my time a lot more. I'm enjoying my day. I'm a lot more disciplined, and so that's what comes with, you know, enjoying. I don't want to make this video about me all of a sudden, because I think that's a little too selfish. Like, I like y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here for y'all, honestly. Because if it wasn't for y'all, I probably wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Like, obviously not. I'd be talking to myself. So, with that being said, guys, you know, be happy. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your time. And I hope you enjoy your life. I'm your host, DR. This has been The Dear Truth, and I'll see you on the next episode.